If you're at home right now, could you do us a favor? Just look around. Take it all in. Look at all the stuff that you have in your home. Where your bed, your kitchen, your bathroom, or whatever there is. And take a look and appreciate what you have. Because as you all know, there are millions upon millions of people in the world who don't actually have a home. And it's a sad thing to see. And then there are those who have the most extravagant ones possible. And we go really do. Then there are those who have homes, but they're not exactly the most standard affairs that you could picture. So with all of that in mind, here now are the most strangest places where people actually live. Number 1. Brazilian favelas. It may be hard to believe, but people actually live in these houses. It might not be that hard to believe though, given that these look like houses, but when you see the stacked up styles of the favelas in Brazil, you at least understand that this is not the typical life of living that you see all over the world. These are houses that pretty much are stacked upon one another, and it paints a unique picture, even if it's one of the highlights the problems in Brazil. You see, the favelas are also known as the slums of most Brazilian cities, and that's why if you were to visit Brazil, you would be told not to go to these places because there are dangerous people there and ones who would want to take advantage of you. So another rule that you get from people who know the area is go with someone who knows what's going on, because if you're just out wandering around, you're bound to end up getting into trouble because you don't know the routes. But with a guide, you can see some honestly good parts of the favelas, and that's something that needs to be pointed out. Though it is the slums, there's a big art community with the favelas that has grown over the years. As many have noted after visiting the place, this spark of creativity is due to them needing to have something to potentially help them with their situation. What arguably is the most sad part of favelas is that they're truly crammed into these stacked up homes. One of the biggest in all of Brazil houses 100,000 people, and it's not exactly an expensive space to be living in. So what we have here is a tale of two homes, if you will. Yes, it's a place that can be inviting if you endear yourself to the local population, and a creative space for those who want to try and make something out of their lives. But it's also an example of how many nations will simply push their people to the outskirts and simply expect them to survive. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button and click the notification bell right now. Thank you so much. Number 2. The Hanging Temple of Heng. Given how long that the last century was at times, how about to spice it up now with a little bit of this next one? If you go to China, especially to the southeast of Dotong, you'll eventually come across a mysterious wonder known as the Hanging Temple of Heng. It's called the Hanging Temple because it's literally built into the rock face of the nearby mountain, and many people wonder how gravity hasn't laid it low. But it hasn't, and it's been there for quite a while. Plus, the temple is not small. It has over 40 rooms and a bunch of passageways for you to walk in, should you be brave enough to rise up to it. The temple is said to have been built by a monk during the late Northern Wei dynasty, which was between 386 and 534 and restored in 1900. It was constructed by drilling holes into the cliffside, into which the poles that hold up the temple is set. Now picture that for a moment a monk was able to drill holes into a mountain long before high-powered drilling tools were made, and then just use basic poles to keep the temple afloat. That's not only creativity, it might well be genius, because monks don't get enough credit for their brilliance. Another interesting element to this temple, which is still in use to this day, is that Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism are all practiced there. Traditionally, temples like this would suit one belief system, but this one opens its gates to multiple beliefs, which is very progressive. And since we forgot to mention it before, the entire thing is 30 meters above the ground, and what we have here is the perfect representation of the dedication of a monk and how far people are willing to go for their faith. And given that the temple is still standing, who are we to deny their faith and dedication? If you're enjoying this video, please don't forget to subscribe us. Thank you so much. Number 3. Setenil de la Bodegas. Now, I just showed you a place that was built into the side of a mountain, but how about showing you some places that were built beneath and underneath a canyon? This is a unique white village in Spain that indeed has houses placed within and under the canyon rock faces that are so numerous that there are parts where you can literally see massive rocks hanging over and the houses that support it. Oh, and by white village, we mean the color of the houses. The canyon itself was carved out by an ancient Greek that is much smaller today. But because of its handiwork, the place was perfect to have olive fields and other agriculture places, such as wineries. That was what this place was known for originally. While it's lessened in winemaking in recent times, it's actually still beautiful to see and has quite the sights and wonders, including again the houses that are within and under the giant rocks. It's honestly a little freaky seeing all of the rocks that people just walk under casually, but that just reflects how safe the people feel and how confident they are in the construction of the homes. One thing that should be mentioned is that there are parts of this place that are above the ground and the canyon, including a beautiful tower that people love to visit. But even when you look at the place from a side view, it's incredible to see the houses both above and below the canyon line. If anything, this is a testament to human engineering and the ability to make a home just about anywhere that they want, which is something that we'll be highlighting quite a bit as we continue with this list. If you want to know the most exciting one, stick around for the last one, because it will blow you away. Please don't forget to subscribe us. Thank you so much. Number 4. Sealand. Have you ever wanted to start your own country? Well, don't be afraid to say that you have. Because many of us have had dreams of ruling our own roots on a large scale and showcasing just how true leadership works. We all know some nations definitely need some better leaders, but in the case of Sealand, this is both a country, a principality, and a unique story of what some people decided to do with the floating military fortress. It all began in 1943 when the British government made Rough Tower, a floating military fort that was meant to help them during the Second World War. And eventually, once the war was over and the use for Rough's Tower ended, it was abandoned until a bunch of pirate radio people came in and began doing their own musical thing, which is pretty badass. Intermajor Patty Roy Bates, after evicting the pirate radio people, he decided to do things bigger and better by making the independent Principality of Sealand, and he was very adamant about it to the point that when some British people tried to invade his borders to set up the board, he and his son opened fire on them. He was brought to court, but by technicality, the platform was outside of British borders and so he couldn't be charged. In 1975, he introduced a constitution for Sealand, followed by a national flag. a national anthem, a currency, passports, and an immigration stamp. And it gets even weirder because there was a coup d'etat attempt to remove him and his family from power in Sealand, and that was actually fought up. And there are some places that recognize it as the world's smallest country. Fast forward to today and people really don't know what to make out of the whole thing. But if you go to the official website, it welcomes you to become a part of it, and you can even get a Nobel title. We mean short, why not? Number 5. Floating villages in Cambodia. From a floating country to a set of floating villages, we now head over to Cambodia for another unique look at life. Specifically, we're gonna look at the people who live on Tonle Sap Lake and have literal floating homes through which they attempt to live, which is anything but easy. But why is that? Well, first up, the reason these villages exist was because of a regime change that was forcing the people of multiple ethnic backgrounds who were in the country for work to return home, except that they couldn't, and because they weren't legal residents of Cambodia, they couldn't buy land to try and live, and so they simply built homes out on the lake where they have just enough to survive and use the lake and its many resources to try and get by each and every day. They work on the lake, they sell goods on the lake, they travel and even wash themselves and their property in the lake's waters. And while many consider these floating villages to be a tourist attraction, it's more of a reminder of how far people are willing to go just to have some place to be and live. Thank you for your watching. If you are enjoying this video and want to help us out, please give this a like and comment for the algorithm. Thank you so much. Take care.